Welcome to the desert of the real.
I was kind of hesitant. I want to talk about what made me do this show, but I don't want to put the person on blast because most people who know about YouTube know that there's a sister on YouTube who's very popular amongst the conscious African Senate community. And I didn't want to, turn this into a show about her, so I don't even want to mention her name. But a situation had occurred where she was, she wasn't online for a while, and she was, her videos are, somewhat popular amongst the community. And then she comes back and she makes a video talking about, what something that happened to her in her past. And, when I first seen it, so what's the ironic part about it is when she first talked about it, it made me raise an eyebrow, but I didn't. I really just like, oh, well, you live and learn, boom, 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 and that was it. Mm-hmm. But what I didn't realize was it seemed like, after all the information that come out, it looked like it was like a save face video. Like people had come out and exposed her on something, and she felt the need to, address it and say something about it. But in a nutshell, without getting into too much details, she, to make money, she made like $150. She said she was in a bad situation. She had no support system. She had no family, no nothing, and she needed quick money because she was in Florida, and her car was messed up, needed some new brakes or something. I don't know. Something was happening with the car. And she said that in order to really do anything in Florida, you got to have a ride. Mm-hmm. So she put herself in a situation where it's a video. Damn shit. You know what? I'm not going to give the website, but it's a site where you have a bunch of women who are paid to be in a club. They pay the women to be in a club, and all the women sit at tables. And each woman at the table is paid according to the level of what they're going to do. And she said when they first went in, they asked the girls, well, first they told them that they would pay them all $100 just for being there. They would pay them $50 if they were willing to touch the man's penis and the dancer's penis, and $100 if they would give the guy a head, and I guess another $100 if they would, let the guy, bang him out. So she said she wasn't willing to go that far. She said, she done touched plenty of dicks in her lifetime, so she would take the $50. So she said she made $150. Now, this is her story. Right. And she said the reason why she went in the first place is because she said she was looking on Craigslist and, she was trying to find a way to make some quick money. And when she saw the thing that they were paying for extras, that it was adult work, but they stressed in the article that there was no nudity or whatever, she said, well, let me go and see what it's about, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. So she went there. She touched the guy. She actually, after I had seen what had went down, I seen the clips from the video, she touched a black man's penis and a white man's penis. And she was basically, she was like the, I guess they were utilizing the girls as sort of like the, the Flavor Flav character, the amp up person. Mm. So she was there, amping up the situation while the dancer is dancing or whatever. She was doing that with the black stripper and the white stripper. So, of course, everybody, once they found out about this, they went in on her. and in my opinion, rightfully so. You know, she made that was some really, really, really poor judgment. Really poor judgment. But my thing was, for me, I think that what we need to do, and without me addressing her and what her, you know, because I'm not in that woman's shoes, so I don't know what her situation was. I don't know why she made the decision that she made. I think that it was poor judgment, because if you're going to be out there like that, and especially talking about the subject matter that she does and speaking specifically against it, you got to be prepared for the backlash if you do something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You got to be prepared. That shouldn't come as no surprise. But I think that in terms of people making this a big extinction level event, I'm just not feeling it on that level. You know what I'm saying? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, whatever this sister did is small in comparison to what it is that we as a people have to figure out and what we have to do. You know, It's not like the movement has taken some major hit, you know, and now we, you know, it's not that serious to me. You know, it's hypocritical, yes. It's poor judgment, yes. It wasn't a really bright thing to do, yeah. But, you know, in terms of just the unrelentless, you know, nonsense that people are just going at this, they're making videos and da-da-da and blah, 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 blah. I just think this is getting too much undue attention.
Yeah, see, you know, you're going to make a video on her, but really, you know, not to make an excuse for her behavior, but why don't you make a video building on something that she spoke about, something that got you interested in her in the first place? You know what I mean?
Right.
Add on to, even if she couldn't, we always talked about that. If one person, that's follower leader mentality. If one person can't maintain or hold the truth of their statements, and their true statements, we can all say, that's true what you're saying. The fact that you can't represent it to the fullest, I'm still supposed to take that and carry on, and I'm supposed to say, I'm going to bear the responsibility to hold true to that.
Right.
I'm not going to put you as the person that's supposed to represent that for me. That's you caught up in trying to be a follower of someone instead of being a brother and a sister. We're going to build together the nation.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And this is why I stress that.
Right.
Yeah, this is why I stress that about the systematic approach to problem solving, because a systematic approach to problem solving means, you know, anybody can fall off.
Right.
That's why I like at the beginning, like if anybody goes to my website and they go to my about section of the page, I ask the question, who is Mr. Holism? And the answer is, who I am is irrelevant.
Right.
You know, I don't get into who I am and what I'm doing and all this other stuff, because all of that crap is irrelevant in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
Oh, mine alchemist, I'm not going to say any names, you know, because I don't want to turn this into a sensationalist show, because really what I wanted to address was the issue of, you know, what people do for money.
Right.
I mean, and then here you have a conscious sister, quote unquote conscious African-centered sister, who, when times got hard, you know, they were able to get snatched up for $100 just like everybody else.
Does she have any children?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Yeah, that's crazy. You know, sometimes you have to be willing to, as a you know, just like sports. You know, we're always into sports. We always make these sports analogies, but they're so appropriate. This is why a lot of people get into it. You know, the coach or the head, the person that's speaking for, they might even be self-appointed, but they have assumed the role of speaking for an issue and to the people. They have an obligation also to say, you know, I fucked up. That what I did was wrong. What's wrong with that? Why can't you say that?
Right. Oh, and that's another thing. It didn't seem like she was very apologetic in the video. Like, you know, it seemed like I think that some people were kind of like turned off by that. It wasn't like this was something messed up that I did. It was wrong for me to do it, and I'm ashamed that I did it or whatever. She didn't say any of that. She was like, well, you know, this is what happened, blah 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 blah. She gave blow by blow details, but at the end of the day, it was like, you know, she was kind of coming off like, well, you know, if you feel a certain way about it, you know, that's on you, whatever.
I find that to be so ironic that here we are facing that same issue that we had with our brother Seti. You know, it's the same. It seems like the same issue once again, and maybe you know he might have set it off where it's like, I'll do what I got to do for this money. What you gonna give me some money? Okay, then, so I'm gonna do what I gotta do. That kind of gangster, that kind of gangster consciousness that people have different opinions about that. Some people just be straight up African, African conscious, and they feel like they have no. It's not a contradiction to be out there and you might sell crack in your own community, and you don't see a disconnect in that. You see that as a necessary evil. You see these people that you're selling to as pawns in the game that can be manipulated according to whatever way they need to be manipulated for your end, for the end for you. You know
well, also another aspect of it is, and to get, just to build on the point you just made, if you, whatever you're going to do, you have to be consistent in it. So if, let's say, for instance, if I'm the type of person who I'm going to throw fire on individuals, then if fire comes my way, I can't cry foul or time out. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's just like with Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy, in the early part of his career, he did Raw and all this other stuff, and he was going at people, straight up, dealing with people who were going through stuff, and maybe they had, their public life was put out there, their private life was put out there for public consumption, and he took advantage of that and said, let me make a skit, let me talk about them and blah, blah, blah. But now, when his ass got caught out there with the, you know what I'm saying? You can't cry foul. You can't sit back and say, well, yo, these people is hating on me. No. You got to be consistent, man. So if you're going to put out that energy, then you got to expect that energy back. So that's why I said the sister showed poor judgment, but I'm quite sure she knows that. And that's the way I see it. As far as anything else, I don't know her personally, and I'm not going to be throwing dirt on her, saying that she ain't, she's a fake and a fraud or whatever. I mean, she made a mistake. We all going to make mistakes. And I'm going to tell you one thing. How many people want a camera put on their personal life? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's nobody out here that is so righteous that they can't they could just throw stones at people and think that nothing's going to come back their way.
Well,
so
that's right. And I see the fact that we don't have a nation. Something that we always talk about all the time. And I think about you. Some of the conversations that you've always had with the audience is that this is why we don't. This is the result of not having a functioning nation, where we don't have an infrastructure, we don't have an economic infrastructure in place to hire our people, to get our people in a position where they're not desperate for the money, but they can work as a unit, make the money, support it. They might have to cut back a little bit on their lifestyle for the benefit of the whole of the building, but they can live.
Right.
This is the result. This is the crime of not having a nation. This is what happens when you're not self-sufficient and relying on each other as a community. We resort to destroy one another in the name of living.